Hello friends, this is Ganesh. Hope you're doing great. And today I'm going to explain the concept of web servers in Adobe. So how we can get the data with the help of a web service for our Adobe form. So that is the idea of this particular session. And a small issue or unfortunately last output, so after explain everything in the slide as well as in the system, how to create a web service, how to connect it to Adobe form, everything will fine. But in my rental system, so while okay, the idea is I have to design a Adobe form with some input boxes and button, and it's going to be offline. So after that it's going to be downloaded to a desktop, and then if the user opens and gives some values, for example they give PO values and press the button, it retrieve the relevant PO details, maybe the what do you call company code or material, whatever it is, from the SAP database. So that is the basic idea. It's going to be work from the offline, from the PDF which is stored in the desktop of the user. So that is the main idea. So here it for this process there are some credentials or just playing a role, so basic credentials to connect your SAP system, and it has a certificate where it should be valid. The credential certificate should be valid, and that particular thing is not valid. Probably it might be expired from my rental system. So that is the reason it's giving an issue. It's not able to download the file properly, means with editable option. So it's fine to download a PDF without editable option, it's working fine, but editable it's not. So I'm trying to reach my rental provider to just resolve this issue. So it's very simple. Probably if it is in place in your system, so you can at least try this. That is the reason. So I thought, okay, let's go ahead and just create this video. Okay, so because I want to inform at the initial stage itself, so everything is fine, only that part I'm not able to provide or show you the output. Okay, I'll download the form and everything, the button click, it's not working because it's not. I will show you the standard program also how to find what kind of issue, because normally it shows the exceptions like especially in Adobe, it shows usage error, system error. But I want to know what is the exact error. So I will show you the place where we need to find what is the exact error on that. Okay. Okay, let's get into the slide. So first thing is web service. So we heard as a developer or a functional what we are working with SAP, we heard this web service in a lot more places about why can't we use web service, why can't we communicate through web service. So let's understand what is web service. I don't want to go very deep in web service about in this video. So let's understand what is web service. So I have a system. So forget about SAP now. I have a system, and the system has this is my system, and it has a database. So someone outside of the system wants to access this data. Okay, so we don't know about how they're going to do it and everything. It may be different, right? So we can't design any of particular servers based on one system. It should be generic. So in this particular era, so we have a lot of systems involved to support the business data. It's not only SAP. We got a lot of third-party systems. So if any one of the system needs a data from a database, so it needs to communicate through a language. So very commonly we're going to communicate languages that XML based language. So that gives more flexible to communicate between two different systems. I'm not talking about SAP now. So in that case, what I have to do is the source system, so the system where the data are decided to share the information, that system needs to create a service. So the terminology, the technically they call it as web service. That web service is capable of transferring the data from both the ways. It can transfer the data from the system to the third-party system, or it can receive the data from third-party system, and based on that it's a simple request, what you call a response on request. Okay, so that way it works. So that is the basic idea of web service. So there is a language or a service. It helps to share the data between two different systems. Okay, so now we come to the SAP Web Service. So same thing we are going to adapt. So whenever there is a common terminology is available in the technology level, obviously every system or every product try to adapt that for the business needs, right? For the customer needs. So here the two-way communication, the web service, and is going to be send the data to a application and receive the data from maybe web application I mentioned, but probably it's a third, another system. So very simple. Okay. So it has its own authentication while creating, because it's going to be used the internet. So the basic authentication, certificates and everything in place. So in detail, if you go and start looking at web service, we come to know those areas. Okay, but now we are going to understand very simple what is web service and how we are going to utilize for Adobe. And some technologies, or sorry, some terminologies we need to understand. So whoever is providing the web service, they call it a service provider. Whoever is receiving the web service, they're going to call us service consumer. Okay, it's very simple terminology. And now come to SAP level. So in SAP level, if you also want to create a web service, we need an object, means the object which retrieves the data. See, at the end of the day is very simple. I need a data from the database, from some table or tables. Okay. So for that, in the product level, they have their own objects. In SAP, we have a remote enable function module, or BAPI. Okay, so these are the two objects which retrieve the data from database tables. So on top of it, I'm going to create a web service for this example. Okay, so I'm going to create a web service on top of my remote enabled function module, or standard BAPIs, whatever it is, but it should be remote enabled. Okay. So once you create a web service, this is step one, I can say. In step one, I have to create a web service in the function module. There are two steps involved. I explained that in web service there are two steps involved. So first you have to create a service definition, and you have to create the service for that. Okay, there are two steps to create a web service in our SAP side. And okay, some additional information. As I mentioned, this is going to be an XML based web service, sorry, language, I can say, or communication. Okay, it's an XML based communication, and technically we call it as WSDL. It's a web service described language. I'm not sure. I think so. It's a described language. Just check what is the extension of WSDL. Okay, so that's what we are going to use in this web service, and SOAP is also plays a major role on this communication. Okay, it's a simple object access protocol that is called SOAP. I think I'm right. Okay, so these are things which just remember. Okay, it's nothing big deal over here, because we are not going to learn the entire series of web service here. And once the web service is ready from your on top of the function modules, then try to use it in the Adobe form. So that's what we are going to use it here. Okay, it's pretty simple. Then, so what I'm going to do is we are going to bind the WSDL link. So that's what you're going to say. That's what we are going to do. It we are going to just bind, you know about binding in Adobe. So if you want to bind any particular component, we bind with the variable. Now one step ahead, we are going to bind with the WSDL link. Even nowadays it's not required, because once you drag and drop, it comes with the button, it automatically binds as well. Okay, so let's see how it is going to do. Then now we're going to just go through the steps to create a web service definition. So not service, it's just a definition, step one. So make sure you have a RFC function model. It could be a custom or standard, whatever it is, it's fine. So once the RFC function enable function module or BAPI is ready, So first what you have to do is create a service definition with its name, descriptions, okay, whatever. So if you want, just create a service definitions. How to create it? It's very simple. You can go to the functional model which you want, right? In that there is a menu. I believe is a utilities and additional steps or something, and then you have to go to the create web service, create web service for on top of the functional module. So I'll show you the path anyway. And once that you create the service definition, you have to mention the endpoint function module. So means, yeah, definition is ready. It's going to point which one. So we are going to start from the function module. So it's automatically display the function module name, and there is a checkbox you have to click it. Just to enable the mapping. And then you have to do the service configurations. So that shows the SOAP what needs to be done over there, and depends on the version. You might have a profile, and the current version which I'm using in my rental provider, I have the authentication. So see if you want any authentications. So currently I just go with no authentication, but if you want, you can enable that option also. Normally in real time we need some authentication, because just like that, no one should access our system without any credentials. Okay, so those kind of configuration has to be done. And then finally, where you want to save it, whether it's a package or a transport or a local object. So this entire thing is going to happen in a wizard. So it's pretty simple, like next continue or finish. The same thing what we do wizard in model pool, same thing we are going to do, create a service definition. Okay, so once the service definition is completed, step one, step two, we have to create the service. Okay, so for that we have to go to a transaction called SOA Manager. Previously, the previous version they called it as WS admin, I believe, but now it shows at the end of the wizard. It shows very clearly definition is done. Please go to the transaction to create a service. Okay, so you have to open the SOA Manager transaction. It actually opens in the browser. It's not in your SAP GUI. Once you give this transaction in your GUI, it opens in the browser to create a service. So now I have a service definition on top of RFC function module. So step two is in SOA Manager. So here I have to create the service information, same like definition. So you have to give what is the name on your service and everything. And then you have to give the security details. So what needs to be done, authentication if you want or not, and those informations. And then SOAP detail. So for this, I'm going with all default values. I'm not going to change anything on this because I need just one WSDL link to bind to my Adobe. Okay. So for that, I'm not going to concentrate much on these steps. I'm going to adapt as a default one. And the operation detail is always, it's going to be generated from your function module without any special characters, and the first letter is always capital. It's auto generate, you have to select that operation details. And finally, after this, you will get a WSDL URL. So this is what we were waiting at. Once you get the WSDL URL, then you can start working with Adobe. Now, in Adobe, what is the step one? So I have a URL, WSDL URL. So first, and then go to the layout of your Adobe. Forget about the drag and drop in your contacts and everything. But by default, you need an interface. At least an empty interface is required. So create interface and go to Adobe. No contacts is required for this. Just go to layout directly. And then first thing what you have to do is you have to enable the data connection with the help of the WSDL URL. So for that, what you have to do is go to the menu which is in the layout, and the menu is edit. So the first menu is edit. So go to the edit, data connection, and it will ask a pop-up. It will come with a pop-up. It will ask some options, what kind of connections you have to establish. So select the WSDL URL and then select the operation selection. So I mentioned the operation as the last slide. It's like start with capital is always your function module name, right? So just select it. Once you select, so this one, yeah, once you select the connection, if there is no error, the URL is good, your connections and everything is good, then it will successfully create a data connection. If not, in this stage, you will get an error. If there is any issues with your URL or your connections, you'll get an error in this stage. If not, you are good to go. So this is step one. So now the connection is established. So the whatever is available in that particular function module, it's entered into your Adobe through this connection. Okay. So step two, I have to connector the WSDL with Adobe. It's pretty simple, drag and drop in the same layout. You can able to see the connection details like input, what is a request response. For example, the function model has one input and two outputs. So those import export parameters are able to visible under the data view palette in your Adobe layout. Okay, so it's clearly it's mentioned it. So what you have to do is just drag and drop, design your layout, just drag and drop those things to your layout, automatically comes. So manually if you want one by one also do, or just drag the entire data connection. It's pretty simple. Okay, so now what happens, now the design is done. So it has whatever request, whatever the response and everything is done in your layout. So almost we are close to the end of this particular process. So WDSDL link is done, web service done, and then we received the link, and then the connection has happened through WSDL in Adobe form, especially in the layout, and then we design the layout also. Okay, so finally we need to write a driver program. So you can test it. The problem is you can't test the edit option in the Adobe itself. So what I have to do is I need to just use a driver program with few parameters which helps to download the form in a desktop. Okay, so that is the next step. So driver program, I divided it into two very basic ones: FB JobOpen function module name, and then the specific function module call, and then FB job close. So few parameters I used. You can use more, depends on your need. I need a get PDF, and no dialog is going to be enabled as X. And the function module name, give a form name, Adobe name, it gives the function module. And along with that, there is a parameters, what do you call, input parameter. In that, the fillable to be X. So it's enable the particular Adobe form for an input. I'm getting an error on this. I will show you that. And then finally, you have to close it, FB job close. So this is done for an Adobe. The next step is I need to download it. So we have some other options also pop up to confirm. So you can try in different ways. So I'm going to explain with these options. So file save dialog, it's going to be open local dialog, which allows you to save in your local system, in your drive where you want to save the file. And then exstring to binary, it's happening even in smart form. This is smart form. If you want to convert it to a PDF, obviously you need to data binary data to do that. So for that, I'm going to use this function module. And then another class and method is for GUI download. I'm going to download it, and finally I have to use the option called execute. So these are other 4 additional things which I have to include in my driver program. To make this happen, just download the PDF. After the download, the user can open it and enter the value, press button, it populates or it communicate with the database and get the data. So that is the basic idea. Okay, then yeah, that's it. Let's get into the system now. So this is my system, and I have a very simple function module which receives the PO and get backs your box. You can try with some more else also with complex inputs and complex output, but let me explain very basic how to connect the web service to Adobe. Okay, so after that, whatever you develop, it depends on your business need. And then inside the function module, this is actually a remote enable function module. Go to the source code, click more, utilities, then more utilities, create web service, and from the function module. So this is the path which you have to follow to enable the wizard which allows you to create the web service. on top of your remote enable function module. Okay, and this is the wizard. These are the steps we have to continue or follow. Service definition. So my service definition is CPO and description, purchase details. Okay, and here it is continue, and automatically the endpoint function module automatically fetch the function module because we started from inside the function module. So just click map name, continue, and then SOAP application. So it just recognized the basic one, and then what is the authentication profile. Normally in the previous version we used to give the profile name kind of, but here there's a drop down they introduced, and I just go with the last one, no authentication, no transport guarantee. Then this is just for a testing purpose, okay? And then just click continue. And what's the package and request? If you want, I just go with the local objects. Okay, so almost all the things done. Continue. So it choose finish to create the web service GPO, and they mention very clearly, note the service does not have any runtime release and therefore cannot be used, meaning the service is not created. So to create a service, please go with SOA Manager transaction. Okay, so click complete. Okay, there's no finish, it's complete button here. Just click complete. It automatically open your service, and here the service is new. Make sure your service is active, then only it will enable in SOA Manager. Okay, so how to get to the screen maybe the next time. So go to SA84. It's not only for service, we used for business objects also, right? So same thing, go here, enterprise service and service definition, and you can give patterns or equal whatever it is. So I know the service definition and click execute. Oops, yeah, it's not active. 1 second. Activate. It's active now. Service definition execute. Yes, just double click. It will take you to the same transaction. Okay. So here you have some information about external view, what is the input, what is the output, internal view information, configurations. So it's pretty okay because we're not going to dig more about this. And this is a WSDL, but so I had to create a service. This is for service definition. I need to create a service. So don't use this URL. Okay, you can try because if any issue comes, it should show some negative commands. It's like an error message. So in Adobe level I'm saying, so you can try using this URL in your Adobe layout level and see what kind of issue is coming. Okay, but now we don't want this URL. We need to create a service and we need that WSDL DL link. Okay, so now go to SOA Manager. SOA Manager /n. So because I'm already in the transaction, it opens in the browser. Okay, SOA management, and again depends on the version. This layout could be differ. Okay, so now we go with the service administration, and you have option called web service configuration. Okay, just go with this link, and you have to search your service definition first. So object type is service definition, and the object is here also you can go with start like Z star, enter. So it could be more 33 entries found. So okay, sorry, minus Y or Z, Z I believe, ZPO. And you can apply the additional filter also if required. So here it is, CPU, it's mine. Okay, or you can just give ZPO, enter. So service definition, we identify the service definition. So now we are going to create a service for this. Just click, you have the link. Okay. So here overview, configurations, and click create service. Now you're going to create a service that is going to be displayed here. Create service. It's again kind of a wizard. So give a service name. My service name is going to be ZPO service. Service for procure. Binding name, I can give my binding name as like you. Okay. Just PO. Then click next. So this is the security level. You have to go with none. Otherwise, if you want SSL real time, we have to enable any one of this. And the authentication settings, at least one to be enabled. So you need a user ID password or a single sign-on or message authentications, whatever is required. But at least one to be selected. So I go with no authentication. If it is a no authentication, you have to give your default user ID password which is able to connect to your system. So at least because it's going to be triggering from a user desktop. So he's not going to enter into SAP logon and trigger your function module. So that is a user, it has a system, and they're going to have a PDF, open it, enter the value and click button, just click the button, then it's going to trigger, start getting the data from your database. So that for that it needs some credentials, right? So give your basic one. Basic one is I'm going to give my user ID and password, which normally I log in for this system. Okay, and that works. Adobe. It's a rental system details. Okay, that's it. And go up. Next. Okay. And alternative access URL, I'm not going to touch anything over here. So this one automatically populates. So just process attachment, nothing, no. And this also, there is no IBC based identification. I'm good. Go to next. And its operation comes from your function module name without any special characters, and the first one is always caps. Okay, so we are good to go to create a service and click finish. Excuse me. So the service is created, and if you want to activate, deactivate everything, you can able to do, and click this display. Just see what we done so far. Those informations are here. If you want, you can edit or go back. If you want to see the URL, just click this. You can delete as well. And if you want to see the URL, just click open binding WSDL generation. Just click this icon. Then you'll get some information. On the end, you're able to see, excuse me, WDS URL for binding. Okay. So this you are able to copy and go to your Adobe and you can make use of it. So here you have option, you can execute. So just click this. It will just show you this plot. The XML, one second. Okay, I think I had to do it again. Okay, 1 minute. And execute. Okay, so it's required a user ID password. So it's open the WSDL link. It means XML based or like language or description, whatever is going to communicate. Okay, so those things. So these are things which we know about as response and request. So those are available here. Okay, and then you have another option to execute, but it needs some host port or not specified in system settings, we need to give additional information to execute this, but currently it's not in place, so we don't want that also. So just close it. Okay, I need this to copy. Okay, let me do it a little later. Now go to your Adobe. So the web servers things done. So now let me have GUI Adobe Web Service create. I believe I have one empty interface just created. GI interface data. Okay, I think this one service. Click save. This interface doesn't have anything. Okay, so if even you can go and check. So interface is empty. No import, export, no global data, nothing. Okay, go back, and now we have to in context nothing. We are not going to drag and drop anything over here. Just go to layout. In layouts, you have to enable the data connection first. So this is a basic one. You have basic master page and subform or a body page. So here there is an option called edit. Just click edit, new data connection, and data connection. Just give it whatever name you want. I just keep it as it is. WSDL file. Next. So the file can be, file means you have to download it. Okay. So once the file is ready, you can use a file, or you can keep the link also. So for that link, go here, click this option and copy this. Okay, come to layout, paste it. Next. So here also because it needs it has authentication, so you have to give Adobe 07. Okay, and click OK. So and then operation comes, just select it. If the URL whatever you generated web service is not correct, if it has any issue, it will show here. Okay, it shows the error information over here. Then if there is an error information, this next button is not enabled, you will not proceed further. So you did something on your web service, some mistake from your web service. Okay, and if it is fine, then click next. And it will ask what kind of authentication. So currently I'm not going to enable anything, and click finish. So now under the data view, the data connection is ready. If you drag and drop, you're done. Okay. So normally people used to have a button and they convert it into a what you call execute type. Then you have to enable, you have to give the WSDL over once again over there. So instead, what you can do is just drag and drop the entire thing. That's it. So it has, you can see the properties now, properties of the components. So this one, so you have to give what is the object, and object what is the value, and binding. So here it mentioned very clearly it's execute from WSDL. So normally we give binding over here, right, directly from any of our context variable, but now it's coming from the WSDL. It's automatically added or mapped, I can say. It's binded already. Okay, and this is for BUKRS, and even the button also it's done. And here you can see is automatically created. Normally if you add a button, it comes regular, it comes to execute, and if you go to execute, the WSDL also in place. But if you want to do manually the button part, I am saying, so what you can do is object library button, same thing I'm going to do. Okay, so here is a button, and it could be execute, and go to execute. So here the connection you have to establish, data connection. Now automatically the web service URL, everything, and operation comes. So it's same. You can drag and drop also same, and manually if you want you can do this. So we are good to go. Then go to context, save it, and activate it. you're able to execute and you're able to see the layout of your PDF in your Adobe transaction itself. But the idea is we have to download it and the user is going to click the particular button and they're going to get the data from the database from their PDF. So that is the basic idea of this particular exercise or session. It's activated and you can try execute and see the output. There is no much difference in the output. Whatever we have seen in the layout, same thing is displayed in a PDF form with the two input fields and a button and two buttons. And the button names you can change, but I didn't do that. You can just change the caption of the button. So click open, just open it. Okay, so but unfortunately you're not able to see this one actually. So it means buttons trigger and it's not editable over here. So now our driver program help to download this as an editable form. Okay, let's see how to do that. So this is a program which we have to begin. Let's start with few declarations so I don't want to waste your time. So I just pass it while typing. And I need some work areas which support with some parameter values. I need some variables which hold the Adobe name. It receives the function module name of the Adobe and everything. And I need one internal table, body of an internal table, which receives the data, especially the binary one. And I have one extension. It's going to be like saved the file of the PDF. Okay, so it's pretty simple. You can just design your own as well. Okay, so the first step in driver program is open the Adobe form. So we need different function module to do that. So the first function module, FB JobOpen, and I need to send some informations to open, while opening that function module or Adobe. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some informations like output forms, as I mentioned in the slide. So I need to enable two parameters. One is get PDF and the other one is okay, no dialog. Okay, so now call the function module, Control F6, FB job open, and pass the parameter output params. Okay, so I'm not going to use this, but it's a best practice, enable the exceptions, but for the easy way to visible, so I'm going to delete those things. So job open is done. Then I need to convert my Adobe with the function model name. What is the function model name? So because the runtime we got to get it right. So that is the next one. So Control F6, and I need to go with FP function module name. So function module name. Okay, anyway, I have the variable for that, or you can hard coded it. So AGV name equal to ZWJI. Wait. So name form builder. Okay. Okay. So I have to pass that variable over here, GB name, and receive the function module name. Okay. So here it's GB. The name I have given GB FENC name. Okay. FENC name. Okay. Let me remove this as well. Excuse me. So now the next one is I need to call my function module along with some parameters. Okay. So like what is the language, and as well as the fillable is equal to X. So first I'm going to keep that fillable as not with any value. So let's see how is download first, then we'll go with the fillable and we'll show you what is the issue. Okay. So for that I need one of my work area. So doc spams on this. Okay, so this one language, English, and then fillable X. So let me comment it. Okay. So now I need to call my function model directly. So let me get the function model from this Adobe. So 1, 2, 3, 9. 12, 6. Okay. And change this with the variable GUI Execute name. Okay. And I have to enable this option, WA top bombs. Okay. That's it. And I need to receive the form output also. Form output. So no exceptions. Sorry. Just remove this. So almost we are done. Okay. So finally we have to use close. FP job close. Okay. I don't want anything on this. Delete. So first step or first portion is done. So here JobOpen, and then we call the function module name, and with parameters we call the function module. So and then close. Okay, so the next I'm going to call the file download option. So that is coming in your method and classes. So let's go to pattern, ABAP objects, and the classes CLGUI front end services, and in this I need file. Okay, so file save dialog, sorry, not download. First I have to go with the save dialog. So just go with file save dialog, enter. And here very simple, I want the default extension is going to be I want this, I only want this, and there's an extension, there's a constant. So remaining you can add it, but I'm just ignoring it, it's not required now. And then I'm receiving the file name, GUI file name, and what is the path, and then what is the full path. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this is the first one which I'm going to use, the file save dialog option. So then after this I need to convert the file into a X string to string. It's a binary value. Okay, so for that I need to call a function module, control F6. So that is going to SC and then MS underscore X string to string. So here I'm not adding any basic validations. So if the file name is empty, then the file name or file path is empty, then only you have to proceed further. So those things just add it. Okay. So CMS, I'm sorry, X string to binary. Okay. So here in the buffer, I'm going to give my form output, the PDF values, and then it's going to be converted into binary and it's going to save in my data media. Okay, it's done almost. And then two more steps. It's like I need to download it with the help of the same class front end service, and I have to execute it. Okay, so one more time, web patterns. So here I'm going to use GUI download. GUI download, I need to give the file name. So file name is this one, and the file type is binary. Okay, that's it. Along with the data also here. So the data is already filled in the previous step, the binary data. So I have to fill that also. Okay, and almost done. So the final one is I need to execute it. Okay, so again go here, web object patterns, and the final method is execute. Execute. And here you have to give the file name. Okay, sorry, document file name. So we are done with the driver program. Okay, so two different classification. One is normal function module, which helps to trigger excuse me, the Adobe, and then we are downloading it as a PDF in our desktop. So let's check it, activate it, and execute. So now the fillable is empty, meaning I'm not giving anything on the fillable. See how it works and execute. So expecting a model dialog box kind of. It just check what is the path. It will ask where we have to save the file. So here's the file and desktop. I'm going to save that file PDF3. Okay, save it. Allow. You got some transfer, so it's downloaded and it's executed from the local system. So this is the one which we designed, but this or not triggered anything because it's not fillable. Fillable is X. Okay, so now I'm going to enable the fillable as X, and as I mentioned earlier, because of the certificate issue, I'm unable to download because the output from the PDF is not able to get it for the further conversion of the binary. There it exactly failed. I will show you in the standard what is the exact issue. Okay, so let me go to the program again, then change this as X, activate. But now what happened is that all the exception I have deleted. So the function, there is no exception for open, close and everything. So normally the exception happens, we're going to call your actual function model of the Adobe. So that what the exception is going to trigger is not capturing. So it's obviously goes to dump. So let's see that first. Execute. So you can avoid the dump, just capture the exception and give some details like some messages, what happened and those things. Take few seconds to open the pop-up to save the file. Yeah, so here it's get the exception comes here, processing exceptions. It's generic one. So we need to understand what exactly the exception is. So this is not only for web servers, generally for Adobe, you're able to just use this program to see if any generic messages happens, exception happens. Okay. So for better understanding, let me have a breakpoint. Okay. Anyway, again, it's going to raise an exception. So for that, I'll do one thing. Let's have an exception here. Control F6 and 29, sorry, 39 is the actual function module. So let me have, by enabling my exceptions. Okay. Then command this. Okay. Save it. Okay, this needs to be changed. GUI function name, backward. So is anything doubled or not closed properly? Okay, activate. Okay, now have a breakpoint here, then execute. Excuse me. So fillable is X and F8, then F6. So here the size of bar C is 2. I'm sorry. Size of bar C is 2 as nothing but system error. Okay, so it's very generic, system error or usage error, or it's like a very generic message. To get those messages, I'll show you a place. And this will work for most of the Adobes. The standard program is this one. So LFPCOMPFRM. Go here, and there is close to 500 line. There's a place which calls our Adobe form. So here it is based on the form number, form name and everything. So let me have an external breakpoint. After this execution, it gives clear message what actually happened. So now go to my debugger. So just restart. Okay, execute the program. And then I have one more breakpoint here. Yes, F6. It's supposed to stop here, the standard program, and this is the one, the function module. So let's see F6. It's okay. So here, go further, F6. That is a variable. Yeah, here it is, F6. So error message, and you can see what is the exact error message. So process exception during a usage rights operation. So I just explored this kind of message, really what is the needs to be done. So here they saying some authentication kind of certificate needs to be done. So I just already checked with my rental provider, so they are working on it. Mostly this kind of issues might not come in the actual client or customer system. Mostly if the Adobe is keep on running, keep on using it, no, then if that is the case, they just keep the certificate alive or up to date. Okay, so this is because of this reason I'm not able to show you the actual output. So output is very simple. You know, you already saw the PDF. So enter the emblem and just click the button. Automatically it will retrieve the data from your web servers. So this is the way where we are able to connect or we can retrieve the data for Adobe with the help of web servers. Okay, just go through this. Hopefully this will help the people who want to understand about web service in Adobe Forms. and let me know if you have any doubts. Thank you so much for your time, and see you in the next video. Bye.